Okay, so let me show you what I discovered. I pulled this out right here with these two bolts here. It's supposed to be that way, and I check if this relay is working. This is your standby 24 volts, and I already checked if it's putting out 24 volts, and it does. When you plug in the machine and turn it on, it's putting out 24 voltage here, and it's supposed to turn this relay on here. Now and when this relay is switched on, this is supposed to connect these two terminals and these two terminals here all together. And you are just to look at these two wires, yellow wires, and this red and black wire here as one. I do believe that they're just there to handle more current, but these are just supposed to be meant as two wires, as you can see here on the pilot arc. See, this is just one wire, and this is just one wire. Just look at it, just one wire altogether. And switching on this relay right here is going to connect these two, right? So like so. And I already did test it to find out if it's the relay that is really bad. However, this is, by the way, 24 volt power supply, you can hear the relay actually clicking. So the relay is not a problem. However, upon checking, it should be that, okay, see, you can hear that. Now it should be that now that the relay is switched on, it should be, we'll put this on our continuity test. Okay, now it should beep. Okay, so before I proceed, let me apologize for the bad camera angle. I'll try to explain it one more time. This here is your 24 volts. I've already took out this cover right here as well as the relay, but this here is your 24 volts input, supposed to switch this relay on. Switching this relay on this back right here should connect these two here. So that's why these two here is you are to look at it as one, and as well as these two here. Switching the relay on is going to contact these two and these two all together. Now, what I've discovered is, even though there's a 24 volt input right here and it's supposed to switch on the relay, although even it's working actually, but the problem is, for some reason, this terminal right here has welded itself on this, let's say, stopper, something like that. It's supposed to stop the relay from going all the way up, something like that. What is welded itself on this here. That is why when the relay is switched on, it's not being able to make contact on this bottom terminal right here. That is why there is no connection between these two. So I've already tried to look online for this particular part right here, and unfortunately I could only find a 30 amp relay, and I could not find a 40 amp rating of this relay. So hopefully in time I would be able to find a replacement like this, but for the meantime I will try to pry this out, and maybe I'll clean these terminals here with sandpaper, and hopefully that will work. Okay, so I've managed to pry this thing out, and basically it was no joke. That was welded on there tight, so I had to be creative. By the way, if you're wondering, I removed the bottom cover first of the relay, so now you can see. So I had to be creative as to how I pried that loose, because just doing so with a needle nose pliers won't cut it. So I had to be creative. So I had to buttress the just to show you, okay, the relay like so, and this is supposed to go here. So just to buttress the whole thing, and then this I use this chisel right here, and then wedge it in between here, and gave it a light tap, and that did it. So what I will do now is I will take this out. See this thing right here, I will take it out because that's too much. It has too much height. I will take this thing out and then I will reduce the profile of this, and then I'll clean this terminal here as well as this. Okay, and then I will assemble it all back, and hopefully it will function again. So I believe what happened was when this thing was turned on, switch on, and there was current flowing from this between these two things right here and this here was there was not much clear. Okay, so basically this is just 600 grit sandpaper which I folded in half and then I glued it together, because the goal is you want this to be as perfectly flat as possible, so that when you wedge this in between here, applying pressure, of course downwards, is that the idea or the goal is to have this contact point right here as well as this contact point right here to be as perfectly flat as possible, so that when these two would come into contact, we've got a very a perfectly flat surface. So we'll just do that now, something like that. Okay, applying pressure downwards. So that's it. So sand this down until I'm satisfied with the flatness. Okay, so if you look closely, I mean, look at this scratch mark right here. This is the bottom one, so that tells us the bottom one is all, at least flat, and the upper contact is, well, uneven. So let's keep going, and then we'll just cut it off here and then keep going until we're satisfied with the flatness. Okay, so basically I changed my approach. I decided to use this 220 grit sandpaper, which is not folded enough, so that I could just focus all the sanding on this upper contact right here, because this is basically the only uneven part. As what you can see here, this is the only thing. This is the bottom part, so there's flatness on the bottom part. So I'll focus first on the sanding on this upper contact point, and once that I'm satisfied that it's already got some flatness to it, so I'll decide I'm going to use this thing again to have these two contact points as flat with each other as possible. I do believe I've already done with this one-sided sandpaper 220 grit, so because of the evenness of this scratch mark right here, and I've already used this double-sided sandpaper, and as you can see as well, we've already got an even scratch mark right here, so we've got a flat surface on both contact points, that is the bottom as well as the upper contact point. So I'm going to test if we've got a perfectly working relay. Okay, so let's check for continuity. If we're going to do this, it should not beep because the contacts are open, but if we're going to turn on the relay and we're going to check for continuity, so we've got a beep, so we've got continuity. So I do believe if we put this back on the circuit or the PCB, it should work. Okay, so now I've already put the cover back on, but before gluing this again, I'm going to try again for if it works. Okay, so we can hear it clicking. Let's check for continuity again. It should beep. So okay, so it does work. So now I'm going to glue this back together. By the way, if you're wondering as to how I was able to pry this apart, basically I just use a combination of a small hacksaw as well as a mini or a rotary grinder, and then I just slowly cut this here, and then was able to take out the, be careful to not to overdo it. Okay, so I already glued the cover back on, and I also wrapped an insulating tape or electrical tape around it. But before soldering this back on the PCB, let's perform one final check just to be sure. Okay, so we've got connectivity, opens, there's none. Okay, so now we are sure that this thing is working again, so let's solder this back on here like so. Okay, so this needs to be very thick solder because it's supposed to handle a lot of amperes. Okay, so let me solder this back on. Okay, so now I've managed to solder the relay back on the PCB with this very thick solder in order to handle the amperes. But before putting this back on the machine, let's again test for continuity. Let's see if everything works. Let's apply 24 voltage. Okay, so you can audibly hear the relay clicking, but that's not the test. Let's check for continuity. Okay, so now we have continuity. We should have continuity somewhere here as well. Okay, here. And let's check on this connection here. Like I've said, these two here should click, as well as this, even this and this. So now we have a working relay. So I do believe this is going to solve our problem when it comes to the pilot arc. Okay, so again, one final check before we install this thing. Let's see if it works within the machine. So let's check for voltage in this here. This is supposed to be our 24 volt standby voltage. Okay, so it's giving us a reading of 24.5 volts. Now should we plug this on here like so? It should click. Okay, it did. Now let's check for continuity again. Now we should hear a beep. Okay, and then we do. Okay, so I do believe we've got this working. Hopefully this will fix our pilot arc issue. Okay, so basically our repair worked. It was just a faulty relay. So I hope this could help anyone out there. Be advised, I'm not a professional, I'm not an electrician or a technician. So do your repairs at your own risk. So if you like this video, please subscribe and like. Thank you for watching.